earlier this week, we had the opportunity to step inside the studio of the famous New York street graffiti artist DAIN. I love DAIN's work. He combines old Hollywood with wheat paste, spray paint, silk screens, and collage of materials that he finds in New York and on the streets of New York. And, you know, he says, when you buy one of my paintings, you never know what you're going to get. It could be a little rat poop in the thing or something. It was kind of funny. But, and for those of you that don't know what wheat pasting is, it's basically an adhesive, a liquid adhesive that the graffiti artists would use to put up things that weren't permanent. They would eventually deteriorate, like we were talking about earlier with tape. So that's what happens. So I think Laura's going to play a video for us. It's about 7 or 8 minutes long on DAIN that we shot earlier this week.
I love New York, especially old school New York. I love old neighborhoods like Chinatown. I mean, inspiration's everywhere. I mean, it's just the streets, the doorways, the alleyways. Everything is inspiration in New York. Coach, it's New York through and through. It's a classic, iconic. I just love working with patterns. So whether it's checkerboards, contrasting dark and light, so to have the C pattern in my work, it's just a perfect fit.
I'm going to assume you started with street art before you moved to the canvas. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I had no idea that I was going to be, you know, doing canvases and galleries and doing shows all around the world. You know, you're just kind of messing around, getting back into it, having fun, you know, and, you know, that's the key to anything, really. If you're not having fun, then you're just really wasting your time. So it was all about just getting back on the streets and, you know, kind of being a kid again, I guess, you know. And then just from there, it just, you know, developed. And I did my first show. I was in part of a group show in Manhattan, then in Brooklyn, and then from there I've done shows in London, in Italy, Australia, Mexico City, Berlin. You know, just
wow.
Of course, all around the States. You know, I'm represented by a couple of galleries.
And I'm going to assume you work on multiple pieces at a time.
Usually, yeah. I'm usually working on 3 or 4 pieces at one time. So all based on collage. So I'm doing 3, 4 canvases, this and that. So that's always my foundation, is usually collage. And all the paper that I have is found on the streets of New York. They're basically tore down posters from the streets.
Ah, I didn't know that.
You get a taste of New York when you get a canvas. You might get a little dirt, you might get a rat hair, you might get something in that canvas. That's really, really New York. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you still do wheat pasting around New York?
I do, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a little blurred line between graffiti and wheat pasting because it doesn't last so long, right?
Well, I kind of like that. You got to catch it while it's up at the time. I love that it starts to fade away. That's really what I really love about doing paste ups and street art, is that it's temporary. So, you know, if you catch it, you catch it. You got to wait for something new. But I love when it kind of, you know, decomposes in the streets and the weather and everything else. And sometimes it even takes on a new beauty once it starts to, you know, that affects us. I love that, you know. To me, real street art is illegal. So unless you're putting stuff on the streets illegal, you know, I guess it's technically street art, but you can't be a graffiti artist unless you're doing graffiti illegal. You can't be a street artist, a wheat paste artist, unless you're putting up illegal. Now, I do some commissions on the streets from time to time, but you still got to have that presence. You still got to be doing illegal stuff in my book.
So tell me about the dripping eye.
The dripping eye was just something that, my work began with mostly 99% of the images are always women. My dad got me into Humphrey Bogart and those old movies from the 40s and 50s. So I loved that Hollywood glam. I love those old looks. I love, the guys in the suits and the women with the hair and the makeup and the full faces. So my images are always based on the face of a woman. So it's the eyes, the lips. So I think the circle and drip around the eye just wanted, people to really focus on the eyes, because to me, the eyes, they're like the window. I forgot what the saying is, but it's the soul to the body, the eyes. So, when people see someone's eyes, you could tell a lot about somebody. So I want people to focus in on the eyes. And it just became like a trademark for me, and I was doing different colors, and now it's usually just a pink circle and drip. And, that's how people really recognize my work. There's other things, the flowers, the collage, but I'm really associated with that circle and drip around the eye.
Yeah, I found myself when I was looking at your work, focusing in the center, right around the eye first, and then you get the face, and then all of the other things, the flowers and everything else you put onto the canvas. A lot to explore, yeah.
Yes.
It kind of sucks you in, and then you get to explore the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just, that's what, I grew up, like, again, my dad was really into those old movies. And as a kid, I hated them. I was like, these things are not even in color. What's going on? But as I got a little bit older, I really learned to appreciate just the style. I just love that you had to use your imagination. What color hat? What color was that dress? What color are those old cars? So I just really fell in love with them. They're mostly what I watch now. And then my mother loved flowers. She loved doing floral designs. And I think it was just a combination of just my mom and dad. They're really my greatest influences. And just New York. Just growing up in New York, you can move here, it's one thing, but when you grew up here in the 70s and 80s, and you just know the streets, and there's just something about New York that's just its own style, its own thing. So I'm really, really grateful that I was, live in this city. And where I grew up in a very diverse area. I grew up in the projects, poor background. I was brought up in Coney Island, so that's where I'm from, Coney Island, Brooklyn. And I just think that diversity of black and white and just all colors, all nations, all people, I think that's just what makes my art. I love colors, I love people, and I guess I love to talk, as you can see.
Yeah, that's great. And you're entertaining. The audience is going to love it.
Italian American, and so we talk with our hands. We love to talk. We love to eat, and so yeah.
Well, I'm going to let everybody know to check out your booth space, because it was well designed. It looks great. I love all the pieces on it, and you've got those prints starting at $500 and then going up to original work. So I encourage them to do that. I want to thank you for being with us today.
Eric, it's my pleasure. Yeah, it was really cool. My pleasure.
All right, man.